Hey there, and welcome to Ray Trace Lighting Essentials for Virtual Production. Today we're going to be lighting an interior environment and a metahuman character from scratch, all with real-time ray trace lighting techniques. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, to answer that question, first we have to define our lighting style. And I don't mean that in the creative sense just yet, we'll get to that in just a bit. What I'm talking about is the logistics and the overall pipeline. Why would you want to light this way in the first place? Well, I'm treating this process as if it were part of a virtual production pipeline that's using Unreal Engine as a complete visualization tool, essentially a fully animated or fully CGI cinematic, for example. There are some performance requirements that go along with this. You'll need a pretty fast RTX capable GPU, preferably an NVIDIA 30 series card, as it will allow you to use the NVIDIA DLSS plugin to speed up your viewport, but that's not a requirement. It's also worth noting that the final deliverable in this pipeline, the final pixel or final imagery that you'd get, is not meant to be real time. Even though our creative process is going to be real time, you'll eventually want to use offline rendering techniques in Unreal Engine to get a high fidelity or high quality export. That involves using the movie render queue, and that is not something I'm going over in this course, as we're sticking just to the lighting. Speaking of lighting, we're going to be focusing on ray trace lighting, like the title suggests. And that means that we're taking a look at how soft light, soft shadows, and all of the accurate soft reflections that come with that will help create a cinematic look in our scene. I'm going to be using lighting that is fully dynamic. This allows for complete creative control, which means that all the lighting is modifiable in real time. This also means that we will not be building or baking our lighting. And that's an important distinction because in order to get cinematic photorealism out of Unreal Engine, traditionally architecture visualization does use baked lighting. But in this process, we're going to keep everything dynamic. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, aside from having everything adjustable in real time, which, by the way, is a huge advantage to the filmmaking process, it also lends itself to animation or moving objects in your scene that normally struggle with baked lighting. The most important aspect I do want to bring up, though, is the fact that I'm going to be taking a cinematographer's approach to this workflow. I'm a virtual production cinematographer by trade, and with a small background in visual effects, I've kind of combined live action lighting principles in this virtual environment for the first time with virtual production. Some of those live action lighting principles I'm going to go over include lighting a space or lighting the room like I would on real life, as well as lighting your talent or the character, and eventually just a little bit of camera blocking because that dictates what you see and therefore how you're lighting your scene. With all those details out of the way, let's talk about the creative aspect to this course, as that's really the main focus. There's 3 different looks we're going to explore: 2 day interiors and 1 night interior. The first one being sunlight or some hard light in the scene that motivates the overall lighting. The second, a slight deviation in that we're just using soft light or ambient light from the windows. And the night interior will be using mixed light, so some light from lamps and maybe some moonlight as well. In all 3 of these situations, we'll first start out by lighting the room or lighting the space. Then we'll take steps to refine that lighting specific to a frame that includes a metahuman. The order of this process is important because in real life, you would block your scene and potentially light the space if you needed to, and you move in towards the close-ups. All right, so with this overview out of the way, next we'll begin to focus on how I have the project set up, and then move on to the lighting theory we'll use to motivate our artistic choices in Unreal Engine.